Mohammed or Pachu, do either of you know that word vague? Have you ever seen that before?
Yes.
Yes.
What does that mean, vague?
Ambiguous.
And big. Oh, actually, that's this really just proves my point. Okay, ambig. Because this is a problem. This is a really big problem. It doesn't matter which language you're coming from. Nobody can do this. It takes some practice to do this. I'm just writing down the word here. I don't know if you can see it yet. Do you see that I've written down the word that you said, Mohammed?
Yes, now I can see.
Oh, okay. How many syllables are in this word?
Syria.
No, that's not correct. There are actually four syllables.
Ambiguous.
You are pronouncing it like there are three syllables, but there are really four syllables. And so, what is the first syllable?
Um,
Okay, so I'm just going to separate these as you say them. So the first syllable is am. What is the second syllable?
big.
Be. Let's say be. What is the syllable number? Well, this is where we have the problem. Okay, the next syllable is gu. The next syllable is
You.
gu. So this is ambigu. Can you say ambigu?
Ambiguous.
Okay, and the final syllable is us. Us.
Us.
Ambiguous.
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 You. Us. Can you say us?
Us.
Can you say you us?
You. Us.
Okay. Pachu.
Sir.
Can you say all four syllables?
Ambiguous.
Okay. And
Am
okay. What is the third syllable?
yeah, is a you.
Okay, you is the third syllable. What is the fourth syllable?
Is a us.
Okay, so what is the final sound of you?
Is a oo.
Okay, ooh. And what is the first sound of us?
Is a,
Hello? Uh-oh.
yes.
Okay.
Ah.
Okay. So what do we have to do to make sure that it's very clear that we're pronouncing the two syllables separately? What is it important to do?
So we put extra sound that is oo. We double the oo sound.
That's right. Okay, in this case, because the final sound is oo, gu, we have to put an extra oo here to separate these two syllables. Do you understand, Mohammed, the reason why you have to
Yeah.
make an extra sound?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to say
To
this.
connect.
Go ahead. What? Go ahead. What?
Connected them.
Yeah, you have to connect them. Okay. And so, uh, wait, I'm trying to do two things at one time. I can't, but I can't. Sorry, I can only do one thing at a time. I'm trying to get a sentence up here. Okay, I'm going to say this word very slowly, and I want you to hear all of the different sounds. Ambiguous. Ambigu, and then you put that ooh in there to separate the two syllables. Ambiguous. Can you say that, Mohammed?
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous. Say it again.
Ambiguous.
That was good. Pachu, can you say it?
So, so ambiguous.
Okay, and just try to make it smooth. Ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
That was good. That was really good. Okay. So this, if you could understand this idea, this will change your pronunciation. It will like by 10 times, it will increase your ability to pronounce words clearly. It really is a something that will help you a lot if you can, if you understand this, recognize it, and use it. It definitely will. Okay, Mohammed, can you read this sentence that I have written under the word ambiguous?
Uh, After vague is what?
Can you you
Okay.
don't see the word? You don't see the sentence?
Now I can see.
Okay. Can you read it?
His instructions were too vague to follow.
Okay. All right, so we have his instructions. His instructions. What do you think? When you hear, let's see, his instructions, there are 4 syllables in that phrase. Are they big syllables or small syllables, do you think? His instructions.
Small syllables.
All of them?
His instructions. Small vowel sounds.
Mhm. So if I say the word his, is that a big vowel sound or a little vowel sound? His.
His is now it's big.
Okay, his and what about in? Is that big or small?
Small.
Can you say those two sounds together?
Is in.
His in. How about
Is in.
struck? Struck. Is that big or small?
Small. Small.
What do you think, Pachu? Is that big or small? Struck.
Stroke
Okay,
is stroke is big.
it's big. It's pretty long. This don't worry, Muhammad. It takes a little time to recognize the difference. But if it were small, maybe it would be struck, struck, struck. But it's not struck. It's struck. Can you hear the difference? Struck, struck.
Straw.
You hear the
Yes.
difference?
Yes.
And then we have chins, chins, chins. Is that big or small, Muhammad? Chins.
Last syllable.
Is that big or small? Chins.
Small.
Okay, so we have a pattern that's very preferable in English. Big, small, big, small. His instructions, and this fits the pattern very, very nicely. His instructions. His instructions. Can you say those two words, concentrating on the length of the
His his instructions.
his instructions?
His instructions.
Pachu, can you say it?
His instructions.
His instructions. Can you hear the difference? The big and the small and the big and the small?
Yeah. His instructions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mohammed?
Do we say it? Do we say it his instruction or his instructions? We connect them.
When people are talking,
Yeah.
Uh,
when people are talking, if one word starts with a vowel sound, and in a sentence, for example, in a conversation, if one word starts with a vowel sound, it will almost always take the sound of the word in front of it. So instead of saying his instructions, actually that sounds very, maybe you don't do that in Arabic, because I can imagine somebody who speaks Arabic saying his instructions, like they don't, I don't, maybe they don't like to connect words, I don't know. but but
Yes.
in English you
Yes.
do connect words. So this would be his instructions. That's very typical of English.
Yeah.
his
I see.
instructions.
Yeah, his in, like that.
His
Sounds like another word.
It does. That's why it's very difficult to understand
Yeah.
spoken English, because you have to
Yes.
relearn
Yeah.
you have to relearn English this way.
Yes. Yeah. So I think such type of learning cannot found from the textbook,
Mhm.
because we are only focus most of the time on mm, textbook English.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. Yeah.
This is a hard thing to learn. But the same thing happens with well, okay, let's move on to the next word because the same thing happens. Mohammed, the word were, were.
Or
Is that a
were
big vowel sound or a little vowel sound?
long.
It's very long. Were, were. What is the first sound of that word? I'm going to say the word very, very slowly, and you tell me what the first sound is. Ooer. What is the first sound of that word? Ooer.
Were. E.
Uh, ooh, ooh, ooer.
Ooh, ooh,
W.
ooh,
Yeah, W always starts with a oo sound. Ooer, like that. Ooer. Can you say that?
ooer, ooer.
Uh-huh. Ooer. Okay, is that a vowel sound?
Ooh. Yes.
Okay. Well, that means that the way it will be pronounced is it will take the sound of instructions and it will be zooer, zooer.
Zur.
His instructions were.
His instructions were. His
Were.
instructions were.
His
It's
instructions
very
were.
hard.
His instructions were. Pachu, can you say that? His instructions were.
His instructions were.
Okay. Now, Mohammed, what about the next word? To. Is that a big vowel sound or a little vowel sound?
His instructions were
What about the.
too vague.
Okay. And now that.
Too vague, long vowel.
It's
Too.
very long. Okay. And you always. This word, TOO, you always have to pronounce it in a very big way. To. 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 Can you say it like that?
Too.
Okay.
Too.
Try to stretch it out a little more. Relax and say two. Let it go for a while.
Too.
Two. His instructions were too.
His instructions were too.
Pachu, can you say all of those words together?
Okay, so his instructions were to.
Okay. Uh, Mohammed, what do you think about the next word? Vague. What do you think about that vowel sound? Is that a big vowel sound or a little vowel sound? Vague.
Big.
Okay. Well, I think we better write 2 words down here. Okay. I'm just going to put 2 words here because I think we have a little problem. Can you see the 2 words that I have put up on the screen, number 1 and number 2?
Yes.
Okay. How do you pronounce number 1?
Vague.
Okay. How do you pronounce number 2?
Big.
Okay. You hear the difference? One vowel sound is very, very long, and it's different. It's a different.
In vague.
What? Go ahead.
In vague, long vowel.
Okay. Yes, but make it a little bit longer. Vague. Don't
Vague.
be in the middle. Make it very long because if you're in the middle, I'm not sure if you're saying number 1 or number 2. They sound very similar. Make it very long. Vague.
Vague.
Vague. And add a little I at the end. Vague.
Vague.
I. Vague. I. Can you say egg? Egg?
Egg. Egg.
Vague.
Vague.
Vague. Vague.
Vague.
There are 2 sounds in number 1. And number 2 is just beg. Beg. It's very short, very simple. Beg. Beg. You hear the difference?
Yes.
Say number 1.
Vague.
Vague.
Big.
And say number 2.
Big.
Beg. Beg. Okay.
Big.
Can you say the two words together? Too vague.
Too vague.
Too vague. So you cannot be short on that word. You have to always be long with vague for a couple of reasons. Can you say his instructions were too vague?
Too vague.
Say the whole sentence. Well, say his instructions were too vague. Say all of that.
His instructions were too vague.
Okay, but I want you to make that A bigger. I wish it was bigger. Vague.
Vague.
Because if you're too short with it, go ahead.
His instructions were too vague.
That's clear. That's clear. It's not clear if you make it too short. Pachu, can you say that phrase?
Too vague.
You sound.
Vague.
I don't know what happened, Pachu. You sound very far away now.
Okay, so sorry. Okay.
Okay, that's better.
So vague.
His instructions were too vague. Can you say everything?
Okay. His instructions were too vague.
Okay. Now, the next word, too, is that a long sound or a big sound?
It's short.
Well,
Short.
okay. Now, TOO and TO, do they sound the same? Two, do they sound the same?
No.
What do you think, Mohammed? Do they sound the same? Two.
No, one long, the other is short.
Well, okay. If you're saying the word alone, they sound exactly the same. Okay. Here's TOO, two, TO, two. It's the same. Okay. But the difference is that TO is a very, very common word. And it's so common, we like to make it very short. It becomes da. But TOO is always two. It's never short. So vague two becomes vagueta. Can you say that, Mohammed? Vagueta.
Vagueta.
So too vagueta. Too vagueta. Can you say that, Pachu? Too vagueta.
Too vague.
His instructions were too vagueta.
His instructions were too vague.
Okay, that's good. Can you say all of that, Mohammed?
His instructions were too vague.
So that two, TO, you can change that to da all the time. But that other word, two, TOO, that always must be very big. Two, that always must be like that. You can never change that. Now, what do you think about the final word? Follow. There are two syllables, Mohammed. Are they big or small syllables? Follow.
One big and the second is small.
Okay, the first one is big and the second one is small. Follow. Too vague to follow. Can you say that phrase? Too vague to follow.
Too vague to follow.
Pachu, can you say that phrase? Too vague to follow.
Too vague to follow.
All right.
Too vague to follow.
Can you say too vague to? Too vague to? Too vague to? Too vague to?
Too vague to.
Too vague to follow.
Too vague to follow.
His instructions were too vague to follow.
His instructions were too vague to follow.
Okay. Mohammed, can you say the entire sentence?
His instructions were too vague to follow.
Okay, his instructions were too vague to follow. Pachu, how do you make a yes/no question with that sentence?
So, were his instructions too vague to follow?
Okay, now we have a little problem. So we've got to look at this for a minute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Where his instructions?
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Let me think for a second. Okay. All right. Pachu, can you see the? I think you know the problem. You know what the problem is. I can tell. But let's talk
Yeah.
for a minute. Uh,
Okay.
Mohammed, can you read number one? How do you say number one?
Where?
Okay. How do you say number two?
Where?
Number one?
Where?
Pachu, can you say number one?
Is where?
And how do you say number two?
Is where?
Okay. So to you, number one and number two sound very similar.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to say number one very, very slowly. And then I'm going to say number two very, very slowly. And just pay attention to the sound in the middle, the vowel sound in the middle, and tell me which one has two sounds, number one or number two. Here's number one. Where. Where. Here's number two. Were. Were. Which one has two sounds in the middle?
Said one.
Okay. What are the
Where?
where? E e
A
e
A
Where? Can you
A
say number one, Pachu?
Where?
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 Where? Say number two.
Is where?
Were. It's just Number two is just were.
Where?
Were.
Where?
Say number one.
Or is where?
Uh-huh.
Where?
Where? Say number two.
Is where?
Were.
Where?
Were. It's just So number one is and number two is just Mohammed, can you say number one?
Where?
Where? And can you say number two?
Where?
Were. And this is very important because if you go to the UK, a lot of times they don't pronounce the R at the end of a word. So the only way that you can know the difference between number one and number two is because of the vowel sounds. Because in the UK, number one sounds like where, and number two sounds like were.
Yeah.
So it's a really important thing to pay attention to. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
In this sentence, should we use was instead of where? Because there is his instruction was.
Well, his is an adjective describing instructions. So instructions is really the thing that we're talking about. And instructions is plural. That's why it's were and not was. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you were going to substitute, if you were going to use a pronoun for his instructions, which pronoun would you use? He, she, it, you, they? Which one?
His turns to he.
Okay.
He
Are
were
we
too
talking
big.
about? Are we talking about a person?
Yes, he was too big.
Okay. So he was too vague, or the instructions were too vague? Which one? See, we can change this. We can say the instructions.
Yes.
Is that he, she, it, you, they? What is the pronoun?
They.
They. That's right. It's they, but it's also they if you say his. His is not a person. It's just a description. It's an adjective. Those instructions, this instructions, her instructions, his instructions is a description here. It's not about a person. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's still they. This is they were too vague. That's why it's plural. We're talking about instructions, not a person. Is that pretty clear?
Yes, clear.
Pachu, can you make a yes/no question with His instructions were too vague.
Okay, so were his instructions too vague to follow?
What is the sound in the middle of were? What is that sound?
Oh,
Uh, uh. Go down deeper into your throat.
oh,
Like you're coughing.
uh,
Like you're coughing.
oh, oh,
Were. It's down
oh,
there. Were.
were,
Yes,
were.
that's better. Because it sounds like you're saying where. Sounds like you're saying
Yeah.
were. Go down. Try again.
Okay.
Were his instructions?
Were his instructions? Were his instructions?
Okay, make the whole question.
Were his instructions too vague to follow?
Were his instructions too vague to follow? Mohammed, can you ask that question? How would you say that?
Where his instruction were too vague to follow?
Okay, you made a little mistake. Can you try again?
Where his instructions were too vague to follow?
Okay, I'm just going to show you something very quickly. Well, actually, I'll just write what you said. Okay, and let me know when you can see this, the question that I have written. Can you identify a mistake?
Yes, I used where twice.
That's right. So what would be the correct way to make the question?
Were his instructions too vague to follow?
That's right. And this could be too vague to. Were his instructions too vague to?
Too vague to.
Say the whole question.
Were his instructions too vague to follow?
Okay, too vague to follow. Too vague to follow. Follow.
Were his instruction too vague to follow?
Okay. Pachu, what happens when you make a question with were his? What happens to the word his?
So we can replace with the articles, any articles.
Oh, well, that's true. But I'm just saying phonetically, when you make the question, the word his will disappear into the word
Yes.
were is.
Where is?
Were is.
Where is?
Now, okay, it
Where
sounds like
is?
you're saying where. So it's not it's push down. Were is.
Where is?
That's better.
Where is?
Well, that's better. Were
Where
is
is?
instructions. It becomes like one word. Were is instructions
Yeah.
too vague to follow? Say it like that.
Where is instructions too vague to follow?
Can you try to say it like that, Mohammed?
Where is instruction too vague to follow?
Okay, that's pretty typical. That's usually how people will talk. So, although you should never write that, never ever write that, but that's the way people will say it. Mohammed, how would you say no? No, his.
No, his instructions were too vague to follow.
Oh no, it's negative. So you were right. Weren't. No, his. Tell me again. No.
No, his instructions were too vague to follow.
Pachu, can you say it?
No, his instructions were not too vague to follow.
Okay. And what happens to no and his when people are talking?
And no his.
No his instructions weren't too vague to follow.
No, his instructions were not to be vague to follow.
Can you say no his instructions weren't? No his instructions weren't.
No, his instructions weren't.
No
Weren't.
no his instructions weren't too vague to follow.
No, his instructions were too big to follow.
Beg or
Were not
vague? Which one is correct?
v-
Beg or vague?
vague,
It has to be very
vague.
big. Has to be very big. Noah's instructions weren't too vague to follow.
Noah's instructions were not too vague to follow.
Muhammad, can you try to say that? Instead of know his, you say know is. Know is.
Noah's instructions weren't too vague to follow.
Know is. Know is.
Noah's instructions were too vague to follow.
Weren't. Negative. It has to be negative.
Noah's instructions weren't too vague to follow.
Okay, that was pretty good. Okay. All right. Well, I am tired, so I think we're going to finish
Okay,
here for
sir.
today.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
And I'm going to try to do Gone with the Wind in about 10 hours from now. Okay, so if you want to join me, maybe we can. I'm not sure if we can, because I have some things to do, but maybe we can practice a little also tomorrow when I finish reading. So if you want, Mohammed, thank you for joining us. And if you want to join us again tomorrow, you're welcome, or whenever you want. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, it's been fun, and I hope to see you again soon. Okay. Have a
Okay,
good
thank
night.
you,
Okay,
sir.
good night.
Goodbye.